Welcome to Hacking Music. I'm your host, John Pisciotta. The goal of this podcast is to break off a piece of the hacking music training we use and train artists in every day to master the best of what other headliner artists have already figured out so that you can unlock your potential. Additionally, we interview world-class artists and entrepreneurs, doers and thinkers so that you can better analyze your problems, seize your opportunities, and master your decision-making and execution. Every episode is packed with training, lessons, and force multipliers that never expire. And if you're listening to this, you're missing out. If you'd like members-only training and exclusive content, you can join at hacking-music.com. Check out the show notes for a link. This episode is brought to you by the Sync Center, trusted by Fortune 50 companies, filmmakers, ad executives, and major film studios. The Sync Center is a full-service music supervision and licensing company that has managed projects for hundreds of clients, including national and global brands, agencies, and cultural events. Welcome, everybody, to the monthly call-in. This is a time we set aside each month where we invite an artist or a partner or an entrepreneur who is growing and scaling and really dominating their space. Most of them are well outside the old school dinosaur legacy music industry and succeeding in spite of it. The key word here is thrive. These are private conversations where we talk shop. We talk about what's working and really just have a transparent conversation and unpack what's working for our guest. So a little bit of housekeeping before we jump in. If you're watching in your community dashboard or you're on live with us, feel free to put your questions in the chat. We'll set aside some time at the end of the call-in to go through those. If this is your first time, Hacking Music is a training and execution platform that helps artists align and monetize their talent and their ability. Our mission at Hacking Music is to serve the world by strengthening the next generation of headliner level artists and to help them connect with people that care the most. That's their fans. The spirit of this is we don't want to cheapen this. We don't want to make it sound easy, like you just flick a switch, but we want to have an honest conversation about how you put a career together in the new music marketplace. Our guest today is Lauren Bateman. She's a guitar instructor. She's an entrepreneur. And really the thing that keeps coming up in our conversation is execution. She's an executioner. She executes. So with that, Lauren, welcome in. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Of course. So you're up in the Northeast in Boston. How's everything there?
Yeah. It's cold. It's finally got cold, but it's January in Boston, so you kind of expect that.
That's a whole nother level of cold up there.
It can be, yes.
Yeah. So Lauren, give us a little backstory for somebody who, you're kind of heads down doing your stuff, but tell us a little bit of your story, kind of what got you here.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I actually started in pharmaceutical. So my degree, I actually didn't go to school for music. My degree is not in music. I just happened to be very passionate about music. And I quit my job because I was like, I want to do something with music. And I started, I recorded my own album. I was performing, doing, the original artist thing. And I was also doing some teaching on the side. I was teaching people how to sing because I never had guitar lessons. So I never thought that I was good enough to teach someone how to play guitar. Well, fast forward, I found out that, I actually have a lot to offer, particularly someone who's just getting started or just learning guitar. So I started a kind of a private studio out of my home. That expanded into multiple brick and mortar locations. And then I kind of took my gig online to YouTube as well. And I've created a brand online where I help people all over the world learn to play guitar. So it's been a lot of fun. Would never expect that would have been my trajectory, going to school and getting degrees in science. But I ended up being a musician.
Funny how that works out, science and
funny how music. That works.
That's a beautiful thing. So you started on YouTube. That was kind of your first.
Well, YouTube was where I started doing kind of like the online guitar thing. So I had a brick and mortar. I have 2 music schools in the Boston area. So teaching music wasn't strange thing to me, but as you grow and build a business, you start working on the business as opposed to in the business. And I miss teaching. But I couldn't have the schedule that I used to have, when I worked 5 or 6 days a week and, you'd be at the music school and you'd be teaching, from like 12 o'clock in the afternoon to 9 o'clock at night. I just couldn't have that schedule anymore. And I said, what's a way for me to like teaching people like this thing that I really like to do, which is help people with music, help people learn guitar. How do I keep doing that without necessarily being in this building or this space if I don't have to be? And I was like, I should try this YouTube thing. So that was March of 2017. I uploaded my first like real guitar teaching videos. And I always tease people. I'm like, I uploaded a video and I got 1 view and it was probably me just making sure it worked. So
that's awesome. I had a similar chapter in my life that's kind of what got me to Nashville. I taught it.
Really?
Ray Henning's Heart of Texas Music in Texas and then corner music here in Nashville for a number of years when I was in school at Belmont.
Okay.
So when you talk about guitar lessons, there's a lot of guitar instructors now, 2024. Back then, maybe not so much, but what makes you different? You know what I mean? Because you're killing it. And you're doing it in your own way. You're not trying to be something you're not. But what differentiates you?
I always give 2 answers to this question because I inevitably it always comes up, because there's so many guitar teachers and there's a lot of great people. We got Rick Beato who's out there. We've got Justin Guitar, Marty, Andy,
Pierce.
your guitar sage, like dude. So I always tease people, like, what differentiates you from other guitar teachers? And I say, in my joking one is, well, I have boobs is the differentiating factor as the funny answer. Cause it really is. It's like all these all the really kind of big, and I know there are some bigger female guitar teachers out there as well, but it's really like a lot of dudes. And I remember I uploaded a video and it was Jolene. The guitar lesson was Jolene. And I just did a search for like Jolene guitar lesson. And like the top 10 videos were all guys. And I'm like, Mom, where's the woman? I mean, Jolene, it's a song about, it's a letter to another woman being like, please don't take my man.
Right.
And we have all these guys teaching it. So I'm like, I'm going to jump on and I want to be like the female that is in this sea of guys. So that's one differentiating factor. But I think the biggest differentiating factor, the serious differentiating factor is that I think a lot of students can relate to me because they see their story in myself and that I don't have a degree in music. So they look at me and like, oh, she doesn't have a degree in music. So that means this might be possible for me. I didn't go to school for music. And I just try to emphasize to them like, hey, my story is much like yours. I just really am passionate about music. I love this instrument. And this was something that I followed. And I want to show you what worked for me. But bottom line, we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. And we're going to make tons of mistakes. And when I make a mistake, I actually tell them. And I'm like, a lot of people, they edit out their mistakes and their bloopers and I leave them in. Like I've dropped pick on the floor in the middle of recording. And I tell my editor, I look at the camera, I said, we're leaving that in. Don't cut that out. Like leave it in because I want this. Listen, guys, I've been playing guitar for 20 years. I still drop my pick on the floor sometimes. It happens. And I think it's that relatability that people really, when I see the comments on YouTube, they're like, thank you for not being pretentious about this. Thank you for explaining this in a slow, clear manner and not making me feel like an idiot.
Yeah.
Because they say, I watched a lot of people and it's like, oh, what do? Do this. And it's like, someone doing like a sweep picking thing and they show you how to do it in 5 seconds. They don't really break it down, like, how did you do that? So I think that's the real big differentiator is that a lot of my students see themselves in me because I didn't go to school for music.
Right. One of the things we talk about in hacking music is this idea of the third option, you know, going to Belmont or not going to Belmont. You didn't do, you kind of came up with your third option of being in Boston, planting there. And that pattern, that process, that we see that more and more. It's like, we're not trying to win a contest. We're not trying to get on The Voice. We're not trying to, be a guitar hero. You're doing your own thing, and it's done fantastic for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So didn't go to music school. You're not into the guitar heroics, hysteric stuff that a lot of guitar hero type stuff people get into.
Yeah.
So people see themselves in you. They feel comfortable learning from you. You're not trying to overwhelm them with head knowledge and theory. You're kind of the everyman. Yeah.
And I tell them, theory is important. I said, we'll get there when we need it. But right now you can barely play a C chord. So we don't really need to know if it's a flatted third or a major third. Like, that's not important right now. Let's just focus on trying to play a C chord.
I love it. And let's talk a little bit about experiences. In hacking music, we talk about staging experiences. That's our job as an artist and entrepreneur. You do that in a number of ways. You have your courses, you have your face-to-face group cohorts. What do you call them? You have a name.
Yeah, I have intensives. I just, I call them little guitar intensives, where it's like, a small group of people, and they get to work with me a little bit more intimately and solving their playing problems. Yeah.
How do you think about those as options, your experiences? What goes through your, do you just want to have
I think it goes back to the reason I started YouTube. Was it's that person to person. It's like doing this. It's seeing that, you sell a course, and yes, there's a community, but you don't really get to know the person on the other side of that. And, there's always people, whether we're talking YouTube, whether we're talking you're a musician, there's always fanatics in your audience who will buy whatever you're selling. They're like, I don't know what you're selling. Just take my money. I want it. So everyone, no matter where you are, you have these fanatics that want more. And for me, I really like getting to know people better, and having some of those more interactive relationships with clients.
Yeah. I love it. So when you think about your customers, who's your ideal customer? How do you pinpoint that?
Yeah. So when I started this, I thought about who were my favorite students that I taught in my private studio. People that I was like, I can't believe they're paying me. I'm having so much fun, and they're paying me to have this much fun. And it was always my students over the age of 50. Hands down, every time. I mean, their music actually has guitar in it, so that helps a lot when you're teaching guitar. And we just had a lot of things in common, and it was just a lot of fun. So when I went into YouTube, I went into it knowing that I was going to go after an older demographic, because, you probably see my classic Camaro in the background. I like classic cars. I like a lot of the things that demographic is into. So we get along very well. And I think my kind of repetitive and slower teaching method really appeals to them, because that's the feedback I get. I watched a video, or I tried to do this other program, and they're like, they move from 0 to 60 really fast. And, I always tell them, when you're older, even me, I'm 40 now. It's like, I don't move as fast as I did when I was 20. And when you're 60 or 70, your hands, they're a little bit slower. We have to rebuild strength. So we have to go a little bit slower on this process. We can build up the strength and the finger flexibility and the dexterity, but there might be a few extra steps we want to take as we get older on this pathway.
Everybody, just want to drop in again and say thanks to our sponsor, the Sync Center. The Sync Center is trusted by Fortune 50 companies, filmmakers, ad executives, networks, major film and streaming studios. The Sync Center is a full-service music supervision and licensing company that has managed projects for clients including national and global brands, ad agencies, and cultural events. They specialize in getting you the music you want within the budget you have, all while keeping you legal through the whole process. You can check them out at thesyncenter.com. That's TheSyncenter.com. Check them out. So when you think about your students and the transformation you see in your students, what do you hear back? What do you see in them? Because you've had students that have been with you for years.
Yeah, years now.
Like they don't leave.
Yeah. It's amazing because it's, it's such a wide spectrum. I mean, there's a number of people, and this happened very early on in my YouTube journey, because, you're putting out on this content, you're working so hard. And in the beginning, anyone who's tried to do YouTube and do it successfully, it takes time. I mean, that's any business. It takes time to build. And, you're doing all this work and you're not really seeing a lot for it. And you're like, why am I doing this? Why am I putting all this work and effort in to get nothing back? And I got an email, and I wish I could remember this person's name so that I could thank them, because they kind of really changed my mindset on this. Yeah. It was someone who was a veteran, and they had reached out to me. They were suffering from PTSD. And I think this was during COVID. And he reached out to me and was just like, I was ready. I was in a very dark space and I was ready to end it all. And I saw some of your videos on YouTube and it made me pick up a guitar, and you saved my life. Oh, so that's like the biggest extreme. And I've had a few other people who've told me, they've been in very dark places, and we all know that the healing powers of music. I don't think we've realized the dark places we can help people get out of, or just even people who've had a dream. Like, I've been wanting to do this since I was 15 and I'm 75 now, and I want to do this. Yeah. Helping people achieve their dreams, or having someone email me and be like, my wife just turned 82 yesterday and I played happy birthday for her on the guitar. It's those things that you're like, this was worth it. Yeah. This is why I'm doing it. And when you talk about experience, that's what you want to create for people. You want to create those moments where they say, this was worth it. This made their life better. This was a marker in a memory for them that they'll never forget. Man, that's so good, Lauren. It's so much of that human to human stuff. Yeah. Just gets lost in, the age of this, which is awesome. We all love and use technology, but it's like, man, that just the simple memory making that you give, your student, that's huge. Yeah. I think a lot of people right now are craving that connection to something, and that's why we have our little community. It's for those people who they want that extra support system. Yeah. They want to be able to reach out to something. They want to see me, go live and say hello and, say, hi, Jeff, how's it going? Oh, nice. How's your dog doing? And they're like, wait a minute, you remembered my dog's name, that you saw a post or something. Yeah. And I think that's, again, when we talk about differentiating factors, is I do try to get to know my clients. Obviously, I've got almost 400,000 subscribers on YouTube. I have thousands of students in my courses. I can't remember every single person's name, but I do try to remember as much as possible and say hi to people and be as human as possible. Yeah, 100%. Goes back to the idea of just transformation beats transactions. I mean, it's not about the 100%. Yeah. It's about connecting on the human level. That's great, Lauren. So we talked a little bit the other day about mindset. And the guitar is a physical instrument for sure. But how do you think about mindset? What does that mean to you? How do you use that to benefit your students? Yeah, and I know we talked about it in kind of like relation to even business and business coaching, and how a lot of this mindset stuff overlaps, whether you're learning an instrument, whether you're growing a business, or whether you're getting back in shape for the new year, whatever that is. There's always this mental side to things. And even when I taught voice, I tell people, listen, 90% of it's up in here. The reason you're not hitting that note is because you're already telling yourself you can't do it. That's why you're not doing it. And I try to work with my students. A lot of times, in the community, I'll see posts and they'll be like, well, I suck at this right now, or I stink at this right now. And I'm like, watch your language, because the way you talk about yourself is very important. You should say, good. I can't do this yet, but I know if I keep working on it, it's going to get better. And I try to teach the students, the way you talk about yourself needs to be transformed as well as your guitar playing, because it's the little engine that could. I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. Well, if you tell yourself you can do it, you eventually will. You already. Yeah. It's a belief system. You need to create a belief system in yourself that this is possible. Yeah. And I do a lot of that even on YouTube, just reminding people like, hey, you're just getting started. You're not going to sound good. That's okay, because you're just getting started. But if you stick with this long enough, I promise you will be better. And I always encourage, even with my intensives, I just did this. Their first assignment was just to make a recording of themselves playing something they find challenging right now. And I said, I don't want the fifth take. I want the first take. I don't want it to sound good. I actually really want it to sound horrible, because you need to know where you're starting today so that 12 weeks from now, you can go back to this video and you can say, look how far I've come, even in just a short period of time. And I always tell students, like, progress is subjective unless we record it. Is it faster? Is 43 beats per minute faster than 40? It is, but can someone tell that? Can you, week to week, if you're only getting better by 2 or 3 beats per minute, am I making progress? Well, if you don't write it down, you won't think so. But if you keep track, you'll be like, oh, I can see the number going up, and that's motivating and encouraging. So I do a lot of that type of training with my students, because let's face it, learning an instrument is not easy. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes a lot of energy. Sure. But if you can see that you're progressing and getting results, that at least makes you want to keep going. Yeah.
I love it. So let's talk about technology for a minute here. What are your go-to tools? What do you live in? What do you love to use?
Yeah. So I just actually redid my entire website. We switched that over to WordPress. I was using Squarespace before that. But we're looking for a few more bells and whistles, and WordPress was getting us there, which made things very nice and a lot easier for me on the creator side to update things and change things. So that was great. So WordPress is what I'm using for the website. And then for almost everything else, I use Kajabi, which is my course platform. And I use that for my CRM, for my emails and emailing people out, doing the follow-ups. So those are kind of my main things. Obviously, YouTube. I'm using YouTube a lot as kind of like a lead generation, a way for people to get to know me and build relationships with people. So those are kind of like my main things I'm using.
Yeah, those are your go-to.
Those are the go-tos. Yeah.
So you talk about YouTube as a tool and lead gen. For those artists who are just 16 years old, probably never heard the word lead gen before.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what that means and why that's important as a business.
So I look at a lead gen as the way, or any of this stuff that you're doing on YouTube, whether you're trying to promote your own music, whether you're teaching lessons, whatever you're using it for, it is a tool to build a relationship with someone. And your lead generation, it's called, you get a lead, someone watches your video and you say, hey, if you want to learn more, I have this really cool thing for you over here. Go do that. And they give you your email or your phone number, whatever you ask them for, to get whatever you're giving away. And you start trying to build a relationship with that person, because bottom line is that people buy from people they know and trust. And I will say that 90% of people who buy my course tell me, I saw a bunch of your videos on YouTube. I really like the way, that you taught. I really liked your personality, and I thought it was a good fit. So I went and bought your product. And hands down, that's what we're doing is we're just trying to create a relationship with people so that they trust us and they know that we can help them.
I love it.
Yeah.
So a lot of artists want to be the creative genius, write the songs, be the artsy fartsy one, which is awesome and important, but they're kind of uncomfortable with the idea of asking for an email. What do you say to an artist to kind of bring them down to planet reality and say, look, this isn't used car salesman. This is your career. This is your future right here.
Yeah. And I think musicians, because we're such like empaths, and a lot of them, you know, we feel for other people. We're a lot more emotional. We get stuck in the artistry sometimes. I just love the music, but you should get paid for what you're doing.
Amen.
And I think, you know, even I have friends who still are performing in bars and stuff. And I'm like, why are you going to perform at a bar for like a couple
$35 a night? Yeah. It's like,
or even $100. Like you're worth so much more than that. But a lot of people in the world undervalue the arts. And in return, I think a lot of artists and musicians, I think they undervalue themselves because they think that's the social norm. And actually, there's people out there who are willing to pay for whatever you're doing, and they're willing to pay well for it as long as the value you provide to them is big enough. You know, I have a lot of my competitors selling courses for $20, $7. Okay. I've seen, I think Marty has a bunch of courses that are like $7, $18. I'm also like, what kind of client are you getting for $18? It's probably someone who's going to buy the course and never use it. And I don't want that. I want people who are actually going to invest because they seriously do want to get a result out of something. Yeah. I could go, the $5 course route, no interaction with people. But for me, I want people who actually value getting a result. And, it's a really hard line to cross. And I think a lot of it comes from how we were raised around money. I'm very, very fortunate that my grandfather, he came over from Italy and he ended up being an entrepreneur. He had his own factory. He made raincoats. Nice. So I've had exposure to entrepreneurship and understanding that people are willing to pay you for a product if they need it and they value what you have. And a lot of us has been taught, that money is the root of all evil. The more money you have, the more problems you have. And, I went to a conference and Steve Harvey was talking there, who's really great in terms of the motivation side of things. But he was just saying, money just makes you more of who you are. And I know he's not the only person that says that. It's like, if you're a generous person and you get a lot of money, you're probably going to be more generous because you have more money to give away. You have more money to do good things for people. And he's like, and if you're a jerk and you make more money, you will be more of a jerk. Yeah. He's like, it just makes you more of what you already are. So if you know you're that type of person who's a generous person, don't be afraid of money because you can do a lot of good things with it.
Yeah. There's a ton of mythology out there, primarily perpetuated from the legacy industry about, artists shouldn't worry about money. They should never, have other people take care of you. We'll take care of you, artist. You sit on your stool and do the creative stuff and we'll take care of you. And that's 99% of the time that's led to their implosion.
Yeah. And like, listen, I've done it. I've done the busking in the subways. I used to go down and busk, 6:00 in the morning with my guitar open. You'd collect the change. The bank would hate me because I'd have all these dollar bills and coins. Yeah. But like, I've done that. And trust me, I'd rather not be busking in the subway at 6:00 in the morning to make money. I'd rather sell a course.
Rather sleep in and have,
I'd rather sleep in, sell a course and enjoy my life.
Yeah. I love it. So we talk a lot in hacking music about product stack, building your product suite.
Yeah.
Call it that. And it's the idea of inputs drive outputs. If you have one thing for sale, you can sell one thing. If you have 4 things for sale, well, then you have 4 inputs that can kind of connect to 4 outputs. What, without giving out too much information, you have a number of, let's call it a revenue stack, like how you make money. How many streams, if you had to outline those things, how many different ways do you, if you don't mind me asking?
There's probably at least a dozen different ways or combinations of ways that people could interact with me or buy from me. We do have some, I do something, just so you know, again, if we go back to that lead gen, I do a free course. I give away a free course so that people can get to know me. And we take them through an email funnel where we follow up with them. And our goal is to try to get them to purchase my flagship course, which is my 7-level guitar system, which is my beginner guitar program. Mm-hmm. And through interactions, if we find out that, there's some people that's too much for them, because I am working with an older demographic. Some of them are on fixed incomes. We do have other products that are lower that we don't necessarily publicly advertise, but that we can offer people to say, hey, I do have this, this 30-day or this 60-day program that you can buy for $50. Is that something that works better for you? And sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no, but there's a number of different ways for people to interact with us.
Hey, everybody, it's John. Just wanted to drop in here and give a special thanks to our sponsor, ArtistWorks. ArtistWorks is an execution company. They specialize in media, marketing, and monetization. ArtistWorks partners with brands to provide infrastructure, marketing, execution, and monetization in the rapidly changing media industry. They create products and experiences to engage your customers, drive revenue, build careers, and surpass your competitors. Check them out at artistworks.com. That is works with a W-E-R-X. ArtistWerx.com. For modern musicians coming up, the 16-year-old songwriter on her bench writing songs, how can they, I know you've got kind of a sister channel that's really focused on YouTube. How can a young artist be thinking about using YouTube in a smart way?
Yeah, I think you go back to the relationship building, because that's really what everything is. It's who you know, and do they like you or not? So it's great to put your music out there, but I think today a lot of people want to know the process. They want to know your creative process. They want to see you, working through lyrics for a song, or how did you come up with a chord progression or this melody line? How did you come up with that harmony? People are really interested in process. So yes, you're making these songs and these original, tracks, but maybe you can show them a behind the scenes of the recording process. I remember when I would go in a studio, that was always my favorite part, was listening to the song come to life one track at a time, and kind of be like, oh, hear how just adding a shaker here changes the whole dynamic of this chorus. And it's stuff like that, like I said, remember, there's fans out there who really are fanatics. And they want to see that behind the scenes. There's going to be people who will just listen to the music, but there's people who want to get to know you as a person and as a brand. And that's what you're doing, whether you're a musician, whether you're a teacher, whatever you're doing, you are a brand. You're essentially becoming a business, and you shouldn't be afraid to share your process, even if you're for it, some of your personality in your personal life. Let that come to life on your channel as well, because you'll hit more people that way. You can release your music, and trust me, I was an original artist, and it's like, hey, I made this CD, now everyone's going to buy it, right? And then it's like, because, when I was I didn't have an audience, when I was recording my first album back in, I think it was 2009, 2010, I didn't have an audience. But if I release something now, I have an audience. They know they will buy from me. So that's what you need to think about, even as an original artist. How do I create following? How do I find my audience and get them to like me, and to have a relationship with me through social media?
I love that. So Basically, what we're saying is when we talk about staging experiences, we're talking about letting them in early, showing them the work, like not just the silver disc or the book. That's cool. The widget's cool, but you're saying let them into the process 6 months early. Let them see the dirt, the warts and all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even in my community, I posted a video last night for my intensive people. I have a finger picking one and we're working on some stuff. And their assignment was, again, post that video. And I told them, I said, I'm going to pick a song and I'm going to post it for you so that you can see where I'm at behind the scenes, and we'll see where I get in 12 weeks. So again, it's that human aspect of being like, hey, we're working on this together. We're going through this together, and we're both going to learn and come out better on the other side.
I love it. I love it. So your workflow, you've got a lot of initiatives, a lot of projects. Your plate is full. Yeah. What's your process? How do you declutter your workflow to move the train freaking forward?
Yeah. So that's where you start building a team. I can't do everything. So I have an editor. I don't edit my own YouTube videos. I haven't edited one of my videos in over 4 years now. So, you have people who do things eventually at some point that do things better than you do. I can edit, and I actually kind of did enjoy editing, but then I hired an editor. I'm like, he does this so much better than I do. Like, why? I would never do this again because he's just so much better at it than I am. So you kind of start outsourcing the things, one, that you're not very passionate about, two, that take up a lot of time, because those things that you're not passionate about, they're energy draining. Right. They really are. They will drain your energy. It's funny. My wife is helping me in the brick and mortar business, and she's a systems person. She likes organization. She likes systems. And I'm like, I don't mind. The system's great. They're what make a business work. But if you want me to sit down and write out the system, that's the part I hate. I'm the driver. I want to keep moving forward. I don't want to look backwards to write out the system. But that's her strength. So she's a member of my team. So, she'll ask me, what is the system? And I tell her what the system is. And then she goes and puts it on pen and paper or puts it in a software like Monday.com, where other people can see the system, in black and white versus it just being in my head. Yeah. So we all have our strengths and weaknesses. And as you grow as a business person, you want to spend as much of your time on your strengths, which for me is the marketing. I absolutely love marketing. I love email marketing. I love creating the content for YouTube because that in itself is marketing. So that's kind of where I spend most of my time because, by spending my time there, that's how I can make the most money, right? It's where is your time best spent for what you're making. Okay, if you're making $10 an hour, okay, you don't want to hire someone for $50 an hour. You might have to do it yourself in the beginning. You're wearing all the hats in the business. But as you start making more money and your personal income starts growing, those $10 an hour tasks or $15 an hour or $20 an hour, those tasks are better off given to someone else because you could hire someone, to do 40 hours of work a week. You now just multiplied yourself. Yeah. So you have this person doing all this work
to create more.
Right. And that's what it is. It's freeing up your bandwidth to do other things.
Yeah. We talked about it the other day, Lauren, the idea of VAs. How do you, what kind of tasks do you mentioned video. Is that a VA you have for that?
Yep. I have a video editor. I actually have 2 video editors that work with me that are virtual assistants. And then I have someone who helps on the customer service side. I have a VA that actually helps in our brick and mortar business. And I have a VA who works customer service in online business as well. So we're utilizing them on kind of the lower side tasks. Hey, I forgot my password. I don't need to do password resets anymore. I can hire someone to do password resets to, can you check my account? I think I bought something twice. Right. They can do a refund if they need to. I don't have to be in there refunding. You give them if A, then B, if you look in
Right.
their account and they bought the same course twice, then yes, refund them. So you give them the framework to be successful, and then you can outsource those simpler tasks to them.
Love it. So, Lauren, we do this thing called Fast Five, where I've got a set of questions. Don't overthink it.
Yeah.
First thing that comes to mind.
Cool.
You game?
I'm game. Let's go.
Right. All right. So, most embarrassing failure.
Oh, most embarrassing. I actually posted one very, very recently. I was doing some investing with my accountant, and he kind of scammed me out of a lot of money. And that was pretty embarrassing for me because I felt like I was a pretty savvy investor, and I felt really stupid that I had gotten scammed by my accountant. So that was pretty embarrassing.
So, who inspires you? Question 2.
Oh, who inspires me? Oh, goodness. Obviously, there's musicians that inspire me. Someone like Brandy Carlisle, only because I love her come up. I've been following Brandy since even before people knew who she was. And it's just amazing to see her evolution, how, she stuck real to who she was. And by doing that, I think she's become so successful today. And that is so inspiring to be, just be yourself. In that song, she has the joke. Like the joke really is on everyone else if you just stay true to yourself. So
it's great. Question 3, a tool you can't live without.
My phone.
Oh, easy. So
I'm sorry. I know this thing. It's like it goes everywhere.
It's all good. First thing that comes to mind. So, what's one thing you learned in your business and your music that was a real hockey stick for you? Really changed your trajectory.
Yeah, I think it was just what we were talking about earlier is sharing more of yourself with people and not being afraid to be human and show people that you are human and that you make mistakes. But not only that, when you make those mistakes, show people how you move through them and how you learn from them.
Love it. Love it. Last question, number 5, a piece of advice for a 16-year-old kid coming up. What do you tell him or her?
Try as many things as possible so that you can figure out what you like and have belief in yourself. Some people are going to be like, oh, you're too young to know what you want or what you want to do. And I don't think that's true. I think there's some people who are very young who really know what they want to get out of life. So don't be afraid to, even if you have some naysayers in the background, don't be afraid to follow your dreams and pursue the thing that really drives you.
Lauren, thank you so much. I just want to thank you for jumping in and being part of this. And it's been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. All right, we'll break there.